Welcome back to another story from Family Story Tales. We're immensely grateful for your steadfast viewership. Before we commence, please share your current location with us. We cherish understanding our global reach. Now, let us delve into today's intricate narrative. Chapter 1: The Outsider. Vincent Mercer possessed an uncanny ability to precisely gauge his standing within the Davidson family. His assessment: utterly negligible. 10 years had elapsed since his marriage to Natalie, a full decade marked by countless family gatherings, yet he remained the perennial outsider, the individual who was tolerated, perhaps, but never genuinely welcomed into their exclusive fold. The lavish spectacle unfolding before him at Harold Davidson's retirement celebration merely served to underscore a truth Vincent had always inherently grasped. The grand banquet hall resonated with a vibrant symphony of conversations and joyous laughter. Crystal goblets chimed melodically, and the rich aroma of gourmet cuisine permeated the air, a testament to the meticulous planning and considerable expense Harold Davidson had invested to commemorate his 4 decades in the construction industry, transforming Davidson Enterprises from a nascent venture into a formidable regional powerhouse. Vincent remained a silent observer at the family table, his presence as understated as ever. The Davidsons operated with the precision and exclusivity of a private club, where generations of inherited wealth seamlessly intertwined with newly acquired influence, and where their own were fiercely protected with unwavering loyalty. Beside him, Natalie shimmered in her exquisite designer gown, her laughter echoing freely as she engaged in lively conversation with her numerous cousins, offering Vincent barely a cursory glance. Their marriage, he conceded, had been gradually cooling for many months, a slow, inevitable chill settling between them, yet the outward facade of marital harmony had to be meticulously preserved for public consumption. "May I have everyone's attention, please?" Harold's powerful, resonant voice boomed across the vast hall, instantly commanding silence. All eyes turned towards the patriarch, a man whose sheer presence effortlessly dominated any space he occupied, as he stood poised and resolute by the podium. "Family," Harold commenced, his voice thick with a palpable emotional resonance. "For 40 years, Davidson Enterprises has been the very essence of my existence. And every single success, every hard-won triumph, has stood as an undeniable testament to the unwavering strength of our family." He gestured grandly, encompassing the assembled relatives in his expansive sweep. "But tonight, I'm not merely announcing my retirement. I am, with immense confidence, entrusting my lifelong legacy into profoundly capable hands." He paused, a master of dramatic timing, allowing the anticipation to build palpably within the room. A familiar, unwelcome knot of dread tightened in Vincent's stomach. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, precisely what was about to transpire. It was invariably about the family, about the blood that purportedly flowed through the veins of those destined to lead the company. And Vincent, a mere son-in-law, was, by their rigid definition, simply not a part of that intrinsic equation. "My son, Mark," Harold resumed, his voice swelling with an almost unbearable pride, "will be assuming the helm as Chief Executive Officer of Davidson Enterprises. He has, time and again, proven his exceptional capabilities, a true Davidson through and through, unequivocally ready to guide us into a prosperous future." A wave of enthusiastic applause rippled through the room, swelling into a crescendo. Mark, a self-satisfied smirk playing on his lips, rose majestically to graciously accept the torrent of congratulations. He embodied everything Vincent was not: brazenly arrogant, profoundly entitled, and utterly convinced of his own intrinsic superiority. Vincent, despite his relentless efforts within the company for years, had toiled quietly, diligently developing groundbreaking, innovative solutions, consistently driving efficiency and streamlining operations, only to find himself systematically overlooked and his contributions dismissed time and again. His meticulously crafted ideas were routinely brushed aside, only to mysteriously re-emerge weeks later, inexplicably presented under Mark's name, reaping accolades that were rightfully Vincent's. Natalie, sensing Vincent's silent, deepening despair, leaned imperceptibly closer. "Don't be so dramatic, Vincent," she whispered, her voice laced with an irritable dismissiveness. "You were fully aware this outcome was inevitable. It's strictly family business, after all." Her tone implied that his personal sentiments were a mere inconvenience, an unwelcome disruption to the meticulously orchestrated celebration. She then gestured pointedly towards a passing waiter. "Could you fetch a tray, please? Harold wishes for more champagne to be circulated among the guests." Vincent's blood ran instantly cold. A serving tray. After a decade of unwavering loyalty and diligent service, he was still nothing more than glorified hired help, relegated to the role of the man who fetched drinks. He took the tray, his jaw clenching tightly, a rigid line of suppressed fury. As he moved mechanically through the opulent room, a phantom server, his ears inadvertently caught fragmented whispers of conversations, each snippet twisting the knife deeper into his already lacerated pride. Mark will undoubtedly achieve wonders. He's a Davidson through and through, after all. Imagine entrusting the company's future to an outsider. Utterly inconceivable. Vincent has always been a bit detached, hasn't he? Not genuinely one of us. His gaze inadvertently met that of his mother-in-law, Clara. Her smile was tight, almost a grimace, her expression a peculiar blend of feigned pity and thinly veiled disdain. "Vincent, my dear," she cooed, her words cloaked in a veneer of politeness, "could you be a darling and ensure the more mature guests have an ample supply of water? They have a tendency to become quite dehydrated." Her tone was saccharine, but the underlying implication was brutally clear. He was nothing more than a glorified attendant, decidedly not family. He found himself instinctively gravitating towards a large window, staring blankly out at the mesmerizing expanse of the city lights, the heavy serving tray a leaden weight in his hand. His reflection stared back at him, a gaunt, deeply weary man clad in a tuxedo that felt less like formal wear and more like a humiliating uniform. The long-suppressed anger, which had simmered beneath the surface for so many years, began to boil with an intensity that threatened to consume him. Chapter 2. The Architect of Ruin. Vincent departed from the party prematurely. He simply could not endure another moment of their self-congratulatory charade, their thinly veiled contempt. He drove home in profound silence, the accumulated weight of a decade of condescension pressing down on him with suffocating force. Natalie, absorbed in her own self-importance, didn't even register his absence until she called him hours later, her voice thick with intoxication. "Where are you, Vincent?" she slurred petulantly. "I need a ride." He simply replied, his voice flat, "I'm not coming back tonight." He terminated the call before she could voice any further protest. The following morning, Vincent proceeded directly to his actual office, not the cramped, suffocating cubicle he occupied at Davidson Enterprises, but his clandestine sanctuary, a modest, unassuming rented space nestled within a nondescript building downtown. This was where he diligently pursued his true projects, the intricate undertakings he had secretly conceptualized and meticulously constructed, the ones that would, in due course, become the instrument of his meticulous retribution. For years, even as he dutifully labored within the confines of Davidson Enterprises, he had been quietly and systematically gathering crucial intelligence, forging invaluable connections, and assiduously building a formidable network comprised of highly skilled engineers, astute legal professionals, and shrewd financiers. He had painstakingly documented every slight, every stolen intellectual property, every egregious act of nepotism that had systematically undermined his contributions. He had, in secret, established his own specialized demolition firm, aptly named Nemesis Demolition. It was initially a clandestine side project, meticulously funded by his own scrupulously managed savings, gradually gaining traction and quietly forging a formidable reputation within the industry. He had assiduously studied the market landscape, discerning critical weaknesses, exploiting obscure loopholes, and seizing lucrative opportunities that Harold and Mark, blinded by their ingrained arrogance and self-importance, had completely overlooked. He opened his laptop, the screen's reflection mirroring his stark and grim determination. He harbored one specific, overarching objective: the Westbrook Project. This was destined to be the largest infrastructure development in the city's entire history, a multi-billion-dollar undertaking that Davidson Enterprises was desperately vying to secure. Harold had spoken about it glowingly at the party, his voice brimming with unshakable confidence that the contract would inevitably be theirs. But Vincent, with his characteristic foresight, had been meticulously formulating a comprehensive counterplan for many months. He had cultivated an invaluable insider, a deeply disgruntled former Davidson executive, who had discreetly leaked crucial tender details. And Vincent, with his unparalleled blend of engineering brilliance and ruthless, calculated precision, had meticulously crafted a proposal that was demonstrably superior in every conceivable aspect, offering unprecedented cost efficiency, superior operational effectiveness, and a significantly reduced environmental impact. He transmitted the definitive version of his Westbrook project proposal. Not directly to the city, but to a shadowy consortium of influential investors he had painstakingly cultivated and nurtured over the preceding few years. These individuals were ruthless, fiercely ambitious, and utterly unconcerned with the sanctity of family legacies. Their singular focus was unadulterated profit. And Vincent had just presented them with the opportunity of a lifetime. A week later, the groundbreaking news permeated the industry. Not through a formal press release, but through hushed whispers and incredulous murmurs within the tight-knit circles of the construction world. Nemesis Demolition, a hitherto unheard-of entity, had been formally awarded the highly coveted Westbrook project. The City Council had cited unprecedented innovation and remarkable cost-effectiveness as their primary justifications. The Davidsons were utterly caught off guard, left reeling in disbelief. Harold, in a rare public statement, lambasted the decision as an outrageous administrative oversight. Mark was absolutely apoplectic, his enraged screams echoing about unfair competition and underhanded tactics. But Vincent merely smiled, a subtle, knowing curve of his lips. This, he knew, was merely the genesis. Chapter 3: The Unveiling. The subsequent morning, the Davidson family convened for their customary Sunday brunch. Natalie was still seething with indignation over Vincent's abrupt departure from the party. "He's so excessively dramatic," she muttered petulantly to her mother, stirring her coffee with unnecessary vigor. "Always contriving to make everything revolve around his own perceived grievances." Just then, Harold's phone shrilled, interrupting the brittle domestic peace. It was his lawyer, his voice imbued with an undeniable urgency. Harold's face visibly paled as he listened intently, then he slammed the phone down with a resounding thud that rattled the china. "The Westbrook project," he gasped, his voice barely a whisper. "We lost it. To some obscure firm calling itself Nemesis Demolition." Mark, caught completely off guard, choked violently on his coffee, nearly spraying it across the pristine tablecloth. "What? That's utterly impossible. We were explicitly guaranteed that monumental contract." Precisely at that moment, the doorbell chimed. Natalie, annoyance creasing her brow, strode over and flung open the door. Standing on the doorstep was a smartly attired courier, holding aloft a large, meticulously wrapped gift box. "For Harold Davidson, from Nemesis Demolition," the courier announced, a subtle, knowing smirk playing on his lips. Harold took the box, his hands visibly trembling with a mixture of apprehension and bewilderment. He tore open the intricate wrapping. Inside, nestled upon a luxurious bed of velvet, lay a miniature, flawlessly crafted replica of the Westbrook project's main bridge. And affixed to it, a small, elegantly designed card. Harold's eyes widened perceptibly as he read the chilling inscription, "To Harold, a token of appreciation for inadvertently paving the way. From your humble servant, V.M." "V.M.?" Mark scoffed, his voice dripping with disdain. "Who on earth is V.M.?" Just then, a sleek, obsidian-black luxury vehicle glided silently to a halt at the curb. Vincent emerged effortlessly from the driver's seat, impeccably dressed, a serene, almost beatific smile gracing his features. He walked deliberately towards the house, his gaze unwavering as it directly met Harold's, a silent challenge in their depths. "Vincent!" Natalie gasped, her eyes wide with a combination of shock and growing alarm. "What are you doing here?" Vincent completely disregarded her, his piercing gaze remaining fixed solely on Harold. "I trust you received my small offering, Harold," he stated, his voice low, steady, and utterly stripped of any semblance of his former subservience. "Consider it a heartfelt thank you for all the invaluable lessons you've bestowed upon me." Harold's face contorted, a complex tapestry of dawning comprehension intertwining with incandescent fury. Your VM? Your Nemesis Demolition." "The one and only," Vincent affirmed, his smile broadening, a subtle triumph in his eyes. "And I'm merely just getting started." He then delivered the coup de grace, the final, shattering bombshell. "You see, Harold, while you were meticulously constructing your empire upon the shaky edifice of ostensible family loyalty, I was quietly and diligently building my own. And unlike yours, mine is meticulously founded upon pure competence, unwavering integrity, and a generous measure of strategic demolition." He paused, allowing the weighty words to hang suspended in the charged air, their full impact reverberating. Oh, and by the way, I've also just completed the acquisition of the majority stake in your most formidable competitor. Your board of directors will be receiving the formal notification shortly. Harold stumbled backward, instinctively clutching his chest, a sickly pallor spreading across his face. Mark roared, his voice thick with unadulterated rage. You viper! You'll live to regret this. Vincent merely chuckled, a genuine, unburdened sound that seemed to carry the weight of years of suppressed emotion. Regret? I've never felt more liberated. Enjoy your well-deserved retirement, Harold. It appears you'll have an abundance of time on your hands to profoundly contemplate your illustrious legacy. He turned deliberately, walked back to his opulent car, and drove away, leaving behind a family utterly consumed by chaos and disarray. Chapter 4. The Phoenix Rises. The Davidson family's meticulously constructed world imploded with catastrophic speed. The crushing loss of the Westbrook project, compounded by Vincent's precisely executed strategic acquisition of their primary competitor, sent Davidson Enterprises into an irreversible tailspin. Board members, facing escalating financial losses and a rapidly eroding market position, began to vocally question Mark's ill-equipped leadership. The company's stock plummeted relentlessly. A torrent of lawsuits from deeply disgruntled investors began to surface, threatening to drown the once unimpregnable empire. The Davidson legacy, once synonymous with unyielding power and influence, began its agonizing, protracted descent into utter disarray. Natalie, for the first time in her pampered existence, found herself utterly bereft of her father's protective financial shield. Her premium credit cards were summarily declined. Her exquisitely tailored designer clothes, once symbols of her elevated status, now felt like a cruel, mocking jest. She telephoned Vincent relentlessly, her voice escalating into hysterical pleas, imploring him to undo this terrible mess. He, however, remained utterly unresponsive, her desperate calls echoing into an empty void. Vincent, in stark contrast, flourished magnificently. Nemesis Demolition soared to unprecedented heights, securing a steady stream of highly lucrative contracts, attracting the brightest and most talented professionals in the industry. He was no longer the quiet, perpetually overlooked son-in-law. He had transformed into an undeniable force to be reckoned with, widely respected, even feared, within the competitive landscape. One languid evening, several months later, he received an unexpected call from Clara, his mother-in-law. Her voice, once haughty and commanding, was now thin and reedy, stripped bare of its former imperiousness. "Vincent," she whispered, her voice barely audible, "Harold is gravely ill. He's suffered a severe heart attack. He is asking to see you." Vincent hesitated, a moment of profound contemplation. He had, at various points, meticulously envisioned this very moment, the Davidsons utterly broken, reduced to desperate pleas. But the searing anger that had fueled his relentless pursuit for so long had begun to subtly recede, replaced by a quiet, profound sense of satisfaction. He had undeniably triumphed. He had unequivocally proven his inherent worth. There was, he realized, nothing left to demolish. He visited Harold in the sterile confines of the hospital. The once imposing patriarch, a man who had seemed to fill every room he entered, was now a frail, utterly defeated figure, diminished by illness and despair. Harold looked at him, his eyes swimming with a profound pain that transcended mere physical suffering. "Vincent," he rasped, his voice a mere whisper, I made a terrible error. I grossly underestimated you. I was profoundly mistaken about the true meaning of family." Vincent remained silent, offering no immediate response. He simply gazed at the old man, a lifetime of slights, indignities, and betrayals flashing vividly before his eyes, a silent reel of past injustices. "Mark, he's lost everything," Harold continued, his voice weak and trembling with residual grief. "The company, it's completely gone." Vincent nodded slowly, a silent acknowledgment of the painful truth. "I know," he murmured. You built something truly extraordinary, Vincent," Harold uttered, a faint flicker of genuine respect in his fading eyes. "Something real and substantial." Vincent finally spoke, his voice calm and measured. "I built what I felt compelled to, Harold," he stated softly, "because you left me no other viable alternative." He turned, a decisive movement, preparing to depart. "Vincent," Harold whispered, a desperate plea in his voice, grasping at the last vestiges of hope. Is there any possibility for the company? For Mark? Vincent paused at the doorway, his hand on the cold metal. Some things, Harold, he stated, his voice gentle yet imbued with an unwavering firmness, once systematically demolished, cannot be meticulously rebuilt in their identical form. But new foundations can always be meticulously laid. Perhaps that, Harold, is the only enduring legacy left to you now. He exited the room, and never again laid eyes on Harold Davidson. Chapter 5. A New Horizon. Vincent continued to assiduously cultivate Nemesis Demolition, propelling it forward to become an undisputed industry leader. He meticulously implemented equitable business practices, diligently nurtured burgeoning talent within his ranks, and fostered a thriving culture of pure meritocracy, where skill and dedication reigned supreme. He was no longer merely respected by his employees. He was universally admired by his peers, a genuine force to be reckoned with within the competitive landscape. He had achieved every single objective he had meticulously set out to accomplish, and indeed, far more than he had ever dared to envision. One ordinary day, he received an unexpected text message from an unfamiliar number. "It's Natalie. I'm pregnant. It's yours." Vincent stared blankly at the terse message, a maelstrom of conflicting emotions swirling tempestuously within him. He hadn't seen Natalie in many months. Their marriage had dissolved quietly, almost as an afterthought amidst the tumultuous corporate upheaval. He had genuinely believed he had completely moved on from that chapter of his life. But a child, his child, the unexpected revelation resonated deep within his core. He telephoned Natalie. Her voice, usually sharp and self-assured, was now subdued, fragile, tinged with a raw vulnerability he had never heard before. "I know this is entirely unexpected," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "but I felt an undeniable need for you to know." Vincent found himself speechless, utterly devoid of a coherent response. He had relentlessly pursued vengeance, relentlessly sought professional success, relentlessly yearned for external validation. He had certainly not anticipated the unforeseen possibility of a new beginning, a profound legacy that transcended mere professional triumphs. He met Natalie. She looked strikingly different, stripped of her accustomed designer facade, appearing unexpectedly vulnerable and raw. They conversed for many hours, not dwelling on the painful intricacies of the past, not dissecting the crumbled empire of the Davidsons, but instead focusing intently on the burgeoning future, on this utterly unexpected life taking root within her. Vincent realized, with a startling clarity, that while he had meticulously planned the complete demolition of his past, life possessed an uncanny ability to construct something entirely new and unforeseen in its place. His response to Natalie was profoundly simple, a promise of something new, something undeniably better. As he stood alone beneath the vast, star-dusted night sky, Vincent Mercer, the meticulous builder, the precise destroyer, and now, unexpectedly, a prospective father, allowed himself to contemplate a future no longer defined by the bitter sting of vengeance, but by the boundless potential of creation. The final, triumphant beam of his demolition project, he mused, would inadvertently become the very first stone of something profoundly different. The last, unwitting gift Harold Davidson had bestowed upon him was not the coveted Westbrook contract or the hollow validation at the retirement party. It was the crucial catalyst for a complete and utter metamorphosis, the profound opportunity to dismantle not just the crumbling Davidson empire, but the self-imposed limitations of his own arduous past. Tomorrow, the world would undoubtedly bear witness to the apex of his vengeful precision. But beyond that would emerge something even Harold Davidson, in his wildest imaginings, could never have anticipated. A profound legacy meticulously constructed upon the bedrock of unvarnished truth rather than insidious deception, of vibrant creation rather than mere destruction, and a foundation robust enough to steadfastly support generations yet to come. Vincent smiled faintly, a profound sense of symmetry settling over him. Standing precisely 1 year later, no longer a forgotten outsider meekly holding a serving tray, but the undisputed architect of his own destiny, and perhaps, quite unexpectedly, the progenitor of a family legacy truly worthy of preservation. And there you have it. Another compelling story reaches its profound conclusion. What were your thoughts on this narrative? I would genuinely appreciate hearing your perspectives in the comments section below. If you found enjoyment in this particular story, please consider joining our growing community by subscribing. Your support genuinely means the world to us. For more narratives akin to this one, please explore the recommended videos displayed on your screen, and I eagerly anticipate seeing you in the next installment.